Welcome back to another episode of Raising the Bar, TKJ Podcast. In this episode, we hear from Kim Black, owner of Sage Leadership and Wellness. Kim, how are you today?
I'm doing really well. How are you doing?
I'm fantastic. I appreciate you taking the time to do this interview. I know you have a lot of insight and great information on leadership and wellness, so let's just jump right into it. When it comes to this field of work and what you're currently doing, what inspired you to start your business?
I was inspired to start my business simply because my role at after 25 years at a Big Four was eliminated. Fortunately, I had quite a bit of a runway, so I was able to really kind of think about what I wanted to do in my next chapter. And I was already in the leadership and wellness space as a leadership coach and facilitator for 75,000 people. And so it just made a lot of sense to just do what I love and what I do well and to do it outside of the organization.
Okay, now you mentioned where you were before. So a lot of years at this place, Big Four firm. So your world was just unexpectedly eliminated, which people go through, especially entrepreneurs. We tend to thrust ourselves into this business ownership realm. What did that moment teach you, and how did it lead to the work that you're currently doing? You kind of tapped on it, but what did that moment actually teach you as you were going through it?
Yeah, so I have never been an entrepreneur before. So this was completely new to me. And in stepping away from that Big Four space or from corporate space, because I had been in corporate for 30 plus years, it really taught me about vulnerability, and it taught me a lot about what I'm capable of.
Okay, as far as like burnout, through the years, we work at jobs, we've all done it. And we have these burnout situations where we start to feel like this is just too much. And I know you speak about burnout and boundaries. So,
Mm.
how do you help high performing leaders reconnect themselves, and reclaim their energy so then they can move forward? How is it that you teach them how to do that?
Yeah, I think there's a number of different ways we can do that. First and foremost, it's making sure that you're living a life and working in a life and in a role that's aligned to your values. If you are not aligned to what your values are, or if you don't even know what your values are, it can create pretty quick burnout. The other thing is tools, practical tools and tips on how to prevent burnout. So, what I do with individuals on the first piece is I help them to identify their values and to see how they either align or do not align with their current role. Now, we're not talking about everybody jumping ship and leaving their job if it doesn't, perfectly align with values. But there are ways in which you can show up authentically and show up as yourself and in alignment with those values that creates energy that allows you to do your best in a sustainable way. As far as those practical tips and tools, burnout for me is all about boundaries, but it's also about practicing good habits around mindfulness, around sleep, around exercise, and your mental health.
Let's talk about the tools you mentioned.
Mhm.
As entrepreneurs, as we grow, we develop, we evolve, we pick up different tools to put in our tool belt to help us get through things. So, when it comes to what you do and helping leaders, what tools do you leverage to support leaders or managers and teams actually so they stay at that high performing level?
Yeah, so first and foremost is going to be boundaries, setting reasonable boundaries, being able to say no without any guilt or without any worrying about a repercussion. Now, if you're worried about setting a boundary and thinking that there's going to be a repercussion, that's a whole nother conversation about where you need to be in your career. But whenever we think about those boundaries of we live in a microwave society where everyone is available 24/7. I've got my phone literally right here. It My husband and I left the house yesterday and neither of us had our phones and we both panicked. So it's really just being able to set those reasonable boundaries so that you can care and tend to yourself. The other thing that I really try to practice with folks is mindfulness. And whenever I say mindfulness, I don't necessarily, people generally go straight for meditation. And while meditation is absolutely a form of mindfulness, the description or the definition of mindfulness is really about doing a single thing with intention, on purpose, with zero judgment. And that could be many things. So for me, I read. I read a lot. So there's that, but I vacuum. so, so it seems kind of silly, but when I know when I'm feeling that energy, the feeling of stress, or I'm feeling scattered in a way, I just go into I work from home, so I go into the laundry room, I grab my little stick vacuum, and I just go to town on the tile floors for just, maybe 5 minutes. And all I'm doing is just picking up dog hair and maybe some dust that blew in, but it's just a thing that I'm doing in a moment with full intention, with no judgment, and it just helps me to resettle myself. So we use tools like that to be able to identify what kind of mindfulness activity is going to work best for you, and then to be able to make sure that you build those habits around it.
I like that. I always look at the frequency I'm on. So I
Hmm.
actually have to stop and say, "Hey Ken, that's a wrong frequency." If I find myself getting upset or angry or, just losing focus, for me it's, "Hey, that's the wrong frequency. Jump back on the right frequency." So I totally agree and understand what you're saying.
That sometimes that frequency, if you're off frequency, that is a misalignment somewhere, right? And so a lot of it is awareness too. So the fact that you're aware of that, you're already ahead of a lot of people, just simply because a lot of people are just going, 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 performing, 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 and they are not self-aware to notice, oh, hey, I haven't eaten all day. Or, hey, I'm a little cranky, call it hangry, whatever you want to call it. But it's really more about that self-awareness of knowing when, oh, hey, I need to change frequencies, or I need to, hey, step away, or hey, I need to get something food in my body.
Totally agree. Now I know you've created different programs, and I believe one of the newest programs that you've created is called Sparkle and Soul Collective. I dig the name,
Thanks.
which is it's a fun name, but what does it mean to you, and what's the transformation you hope participants will walk away from when they actually participate in this collective?
Yeah, so this One Soul Collective came to be right after I left the Big Four. Um, I've always been a fan of a little bit of sparkle and a little bit of glitter. And so I just took it upon myself to find the most sparkliest, glitteriest thing I could find and have it sort of be my talisman. I like having a theme to things, and so the disco ball just showed up. So I travel with my disco ball. I have an 8-inch disco ball that travels with me when I do speaking engagements. And whenever I thought about how, in particular, women either show up or don't show up in the workplace, I thought to myself, gosh, we're so multifaceted. We do so many things and we're capable of so many things. How are we showing up? Are we tamping ourselves down, or are we really having true, honest, real conversations about who we are in that space without roles, responsibilities, or expectations? And so that's what I wanted to dig into. I wanted to give women a spot to be able to come and to rest and to talk and to really get into just different themes. Toxic femininity. We're going to be talking about boundaries and energy, different things like that. But really, just I wanted people to come with soul. And that's why there was the sparkle and then the soul, because this is something that's near and dear to my heart. And I really truly think that it's something that we're missing. What I hope that they would get out of it would be a safe container. So it's part leadership development, part group coaching, part one-on-one coaching, and then part just community. Because I do think that sometimes we neglect community in our lives, and we know that people live longer, they live better when they are a part of a community. And so that's what I'm hoping that people will get out of it, is just a place to come and be, who they are unequivocally and to be able to just rest for a few moments, maybe to learn just a little bit, get some coaching, and meet other women.
Okay, I love it. So now working with leaders, for our leaders that are listening or those that, aspire to become leaders, for those individuals who are listening, they're tired, maybe they're overextended, or actually they're quietly questioning, you know, if this is all there is in their life, where they are right now, is there more to it? What would you want them to know to help them move forward with where they are right now?
I would say if you're questioning anything, then that's a signal. If you're questioning your role, if you're questioning purpose and meaning, that is a signal. It goes back to what we were talking about a minute ago. It's the self-awareness of saying, you know what, that means something. I'm not just tired. I'm not just worn out. I'm not just angry or hangry or whatever it is. That is a signal. And what I would say to you that if you're thinking to yourself, is this all there is? Or is this really, the job that I want? Or is this really the relationship that I want? Is this the city I want to live in? Are prime playgrounds for coaching. So it's really, and coaching is really all about you bringing an agenda, me asking insightful questions, and then providing objective viewpoints. I've had people come to me and tell me all about their job and about how much they dislike their boss, and they're miserable and they work too much, and they talk for 20 minutes, and then I'll just simply say, what do you want to do? And it's as if the heavens have opened and the rainbows and the unicorns are all dancing and going everywhere. it, they've not taken the time. They've been running and going so fast. They have not taken the time to slow down and just truly ask themselves the question. So that's where coaching can really come into play.
Now, with our listeners and the lessons that we've learned, what is one lesson that you've learned being a leader that was not or may not be taught in school that could really be beneficial to our listeners?
Be kind, have empathy. Empathy is not taught in our school system. And so I think that, everybody is going through something at some point. And I think as a leader, it is imperative to take notice, to be aware, to have empathy for the people that work with you and for you, and to ask reasonable questions. I mean, I always started my meetings with a Brene Brown question. She always did a quick check of, how are you feeling? Not how are you, because that's an easy answer. You can just go, fine. You get the fine. Yeah, I'm good, fine, whatever. But how are you really? How are you feeling? And whenever we ask those empathetic questions and we come to the answers with curiosity and kindness, it informs a lot. And so I would say that's probably the number one thing.
Now, along the way, as you grow, develop, all of us evolve. We hear things, we take advice, things of that nature. So, can you give our listeners one piece of business advice that has stuck with you along this journey that you could actually give to them?
This one might be may cause some little fussiness, but I would say you are replaceable. I honestly I thought I was retiring there. I thought I was going to retire there. Um, so at the end of the day, when you are on your deathbed, it is not going to be somebody from that company, that organization who is sitting there holding your hand. You, you have to do a job because we need money and a girl likes to eat. It's necessary to live life. However, it doesn't have to be your life.
I agree. I totally agree. Never get too cocky, right? Don't get too arrogant because the fact is you can get replaced. And I'm trying to
Mhm.
explain that to people. No matter what your degree is or how long you've worked there,
Yep.
that is a possibility. Well, I appreciate you taking the time. Now, tell us a little bit here. How can people get a hold of you if someone wants to learn about leadership, or if they've got a team that, they may want you to come in, or if they just have general questions? How can we find you?
Absolutely. You can find me via my website at sageleadershipandwellness.com. I'm also on LinkedIn at Coach Kim Black, and you can message me there. That's where I usually get a lot of my speaker requests. And or you can email me directly at kim at sageleadershipandwellness.com.
All right, fantastic. Well, you guys got all the information you need. If you're looking to become a leader, find Kim, all of her outlets. And Kim, again, I really appreciate you taking the time to do this interview. Many blessings and much success to you as you move forward.
Appreciate it.